Imagine waking up 50,000 years ago with a fever that makes the cave walls breathe and a chest that feels like it's being crushed by a mammoth. In a world where the nearest hospital is tens of thousands of years in the future, you aren't just fighting a virus, you're fighting a biological blueprint that was never actually finished. For 99.9% of human history, getting sick wasn't a reason to call out of work. It was a high-stakes gamble with extinction. We often imagine our ancestors as peak physical specimens, perfectly tuned to the wild, but the reality is far more disturbing. We are a biological paradox, a species that burns in its own sunlight and breaks under its own gravity. To survive a sickness in the ancient world, you didn't just need medicine, you needed a complete restructuring of what it meant to be alive. To understand how ancient humans handled illness, you first have to look at the broken blueprint of our own bodies. Mainstream biology suggests we are currently living through an evolutionary mismatch, where our bodies are calibrated for a world that no longer exists. Our spines are essentially a horizontal bridge that evolution tried to stand upright, leaving 80% of us with chronic structural failure. Our immune systems, designed to protect us, often go to war with the very air we breathe, leading to allergies that affect a third of the population. In the ancient world, these weren't just quirks, they were vulnerabilities that a single infection or injury could exploit. But our ancestors had a secret weapon that didn't come from a lab. It came from the scrap heap. 3 million years ago, your earliest ancestors were not the dominant hunters we see in movies. They were scavengers, waiting for lions and hyenas to finish their meals. When they finally moved in, they went for the one thing no other animal could reach: bone marrow. Marrow, sealed inside thick thigh bones, was a jackpot of raw, calorie-dense fat. They ate the brains too, a pound of solid fat per skull. This wasn't just lunch, it was the first pharmacy. This high-fat diet provided the massive energy reserves needed to fuel an immune system during a crisis, a program your body still runs today by treating fat like treasure. As we evolved, our medicine moved from raw scavenged fat to something even more complex: controlled rot. When a kill was too big to eat at once, our ancestors would stash meat in cold streams or bury it in caves for weeks. By the time they returned, it was rippling with decay, but some researchers believe they preferred it that way. Rotting meat is already partly broken down by bacteria, making it easier to chew and absorb, and the bacteria produce vital B vitamins your body needs to fight off disease. Every fermented food you love today, from yogurt to sourdough, is just a safe, slowed-down version of the savanna rot that kept your ancestors' guts healthy 100,000 years ago. Then came the greatest medical breakthrough in human history: fire. Fire did something for the sick that no herb could. It provided predigestion. Raw meat and plants force your gut to do hours of grueling chemical work, but cooking breaks those structures down before they ever hit your tongue. This allowed our ancestors to spend less energy on digestion and more on their immune response. As we started cooking, our guts actually shrank, and that reclaimed energy was diverted to the brain. For a sick human, fire was a metabolic life support system, allowing a patient to pull more calories out of every bite while their body was too weak for the heavy lifting of raw digestion. But fire offered something even more profound than heat and calories. It offered a circle of safety. A campfire creates a zone roughly 30 feet in diameter where predators like leopards and hyenas will not enter. Outside that circle, you die. Inside, you have the first hospital ward. This circle gave the injured and the ill something they never had before: extra hours of safety and usable time. Anthropologists have found that while daytime talk among hunter-gatherers is 80% practical and logistical, nighttime talk around the fire is 81% storytelling. This is where human culture and the meaningful roles required for survival were born. In the famous Universe 25 experiment, scientist John Calhoun found that when a society loses its meaningful roles, it collapses into apathy and extinction, even if food is unlimited. In the ancient world, the sick were not just burdens, they were the audience for the stories, the keepers of the myths, and the focus of the group's ideational generativity, the ability to create new reasons to exist. By giving the ill a place in the social fabric around the campfire, the tribe ensured that the spirit didn't die before the body did. While the group told stories, the sick also benefited from a unique biological rhythm we've almost entirely lost today: the watch. Before the industrial age and artificial light, humans did not sleep in one 8-hour block. They slept in 2 phases. First sleep, for about 4 hours, followed by a 1 to 3 hour window of quiet wakefulness. Then a second sleep until dawn. During this midnight gap, the human brain produces elevated levels of prolactin, the same hormone released during meditation. For an ancient person suffering from a chronic ailment or a slow-healing wound, this was a state of peaceful reflection, a distinct state of consciousness that allowed the body and mind to process the trauma of survival. However, even with these systems, the ancient world was brutal, particularly for the most vulnerable: infants and mothers. Human childbirth is the most dangerous birth process of any mammal because our brains grew bigger faster than our birth canals could adapt, a conflict known as the obstetric dilemma. We are the only species that routinely dies trying to deliver healthy offspring. And if a child survived the birth, they faced a different kind of erasure. We remember nothing from our first 3 years of life because the baby brain is so busy growing new neurons, a process called neurogenesis, that it literally overwrites its own memory circuits. Your earliest memories of childhood illness weren't lost. Your brain simply tore down the old walls to build a person who could survive into adulthood. But how did we move from simply surviving to actually performing surgery? The evidence is hidden in the strangest places, like Guff's Cave in England. Researchers found human bones from 14,700 years ago that had been meticulously cleaned and carved with zigzag patterns. While some see this as ritual cannibalism, it also points to an obsession with the human body and its meaning. We weren't just animals reacting to pain, we were a species that had decided the body was something that could be solved. We are the only species on Earth that knows it is going to die and refuses to accept it quietly. This existential dread, which seems like a flaw, actually drove the sheer speed of our progress, taking us from sharpened rocks to nuclear weapons in a geological blink. If you dropped a human from 50,000 years ago into your kitchen today, they would think they had walked into a god's pantry. They would see a world where food is rare, no longer, where controlled rot is sold in plastic tubs, and where a light switch has conquered the terrors of the night. But they might also see what we've lost. They might notice that we've traded our quiet, reflective state for scrolling through screens that suppress our melatonin and fragment our peace. They might see that while we have fixed many of the body's failures, we are struggling with the behavioral sink of modern life, the listless pools of people who, like Calhoun's mice, have no meaningful roles to fill. Calhoun's experiment showed that abundance can be as deadly as scarcity if it removes the friction that makes being alive feel like something. The mice in Universe 25 died 2 deaths. First the spirit, then the body. Our ancestors avoided this by turning the struggle of sickness into the foundation of culture, storytelling, and community. They didn't have antibiotics, but they had ideational generativity, the ability to keep making new reasons to be here. We survived the ancient world not because we were the strongest, but because we were the strangest. We are a species that learned to use fire to digest its food, storytelling to heal its mind, and directed panspermia-level curiosity to question its own origin. Our ancestors lived through a 3 million year program of hunger, cold, and darkness so that you wouldn't have to. The next time you feel off, or find yourself awake at 2 a.m., don't just reach for a pill or a phone. Remember that your body is running an ancient script. It's a prototype that's been through the fire, and it's still waiting for you to find a meaningful role to keep it running.